Good morning, afternoon, evening, or night, whatever time it may be. I didn't do that last video. Yesterday was wild. I was quite tired. Happily and wonderfully, I'm not as tired today. It is 6:39 in the morning on the 29th of October, 2025. And I'm feeling pretty good. Um yeah. So, back in the full swing of things. My jet lag, I'm fighting against it, but I think I'm getting there. So yesterday was Tuesday, the 28th of October, 2025, and we started our next project because our our romantic scenes where I did Demetrius and Midsummer are done. We finished those. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch everyone's, but I was able to be there for the birth of my firstborn son, so I don't feel bad about it. Uh, so week 7, day 2, Tuesday. We are now doing the histories, and my group is doing Richard III, who is known as like the he's quite a villainous king. He is born deformed and crippled. He kind of has a hunched back and a gimp arm. And so we're doing basically the whole play. Well, we're doing scenes from the whole play. This is an abridged version, and then we're not doing some scenes, but in general, we're doing the play. And I'll reveal my part at the end because I didn't know until the end of the day. So I met our new tutor. Gemma is no longer my director. I hope she's around campus and stuff because I'd love to see her. But we are now with, wish I had my pen. I do, because I didn't write her last name. I just looked it up. Gotta be prepared. Kirsty Bushell. Kirsty Bushell. I looked her up right before this, just to like see what it says about her on the interwebs, and it says Kirsty has worked extensively in theater and television, playing lead roles at the RSC, National Theatre, the Globe Theatre, the Royal Court, the Bush, and many other British theatres. So she's also done television and film and some stuff, but predominantly has worked in theater, which is great because I think that's what I would prefer. I don't know. I want money to support my family. Feeling that ever more so being a father now. But my true passion has been found on stage because I love following the character and the arc and the live aspect of it, everything. Anyway, Kirsty Bushell. She's fantastic. At the very beginning, she's like, I have undiagnosed ADHD, so I'm going to go on tangent sometime, but just help me stay focused. So it was great. And since we were going to do a lot of kind of table work and discussing and reading Richard III, we started on our feet to kind of get up. And we walked the space, which was fun because we didn't walk at all yesterday, which is weird because I feel like we walk at the beginning of every class as we get into our bodies and feel the space. So we walked the space. I was like, this feels like LAMDA now. Now we're back into it. Walking the space. Then we played a name game. And so we got chairs and we sat in a circle and we removed every other chair. And then the people who were sitting in those chairs stood behind the people who were sitting. And one chair was empty with someone behind it. And that person would look around and then call on one of the people sitting. And their job was to get off their seat without being tapped by the person standing behind them take the next seat. And the people standing behind them stood at arm's length and weren't allowed to move their feet. They could lean and they could like go for it, but they weren't able to move their feet. And so it was fun to see how like people would like drop. And one of the students, he was great. He kind of perfected this little just like drop off your seat, and it was fun. But that was really fun. And so they would call names, and that helped Kirsty learn our names. And then we played this game where I want to remember, because I remember that I did not write one of them. Oh yeah, it was the body part game. There it is. Okay. I don't remember if the body part game was first. The order doesn't totally matter. But so the first game after that is we walked around and we all moved to one end of the stage and the space, the studio, call it housetop studio. And we were facing towards her, and she said, "I have a great big sword, and I'm gonna like swipe it over your head. You have to duck." And so she went, and we ducked. And then she's like, "And I have a great big log, and you have to jump." And so it was based on really focusing on listening. And so we would duck and we would jump. And then she did that. And she's like, "And when I snap, you turn 180 degrees. So those were our cues." And so we were trying to do it. And it was hard because the snaps were pretty quiet. And then when you clap, when she claps, you clap. Actually, I feel like I should be a little more quiet because it is 6:45 in the morning. But so we did that for a little bit. And then she added, if I say step forward, step back. If I say step back, step forward. If I say step right, step left. If I say step left, step right. And so we're doing the opposites of what was said. And it was so counterintuitive because to listen and to respond quickly, you want to just like do what she says. But then it's like, it was fun. And then we played the body part game, which was really neat in of itself. Because she would say, "I need 2 hands." And so there's 15 of us walking around the room, just walking the space. And then you get 2 people and you touch hands. Okay, 2 hands. 3 hands, you need a third person. Or you need 2 people, 1 person does 2 hands, the other does the third. And then it's like 2 elbows on a back, or 3 knees and a foot. I'm trying to remember actual one she did. She said she wanted to do faces, but she's like, let's not do faces. She said, "If you dare, 2 bums." And so you put your bums together. And it was good. It was just really focusing on listening and communicating. I feel like I'm way more energized today. Today's going to be a good day. Feeling it, which is good. Wednesdays are long days, but it's all right. I think I have... Yeah, I'm working on my scene for Karen with my group after classes today. But yeah, so we did that, and it was great. And then we played another game, which was the seat game. So we all grabbed a seat and put them in different locations, kind of spread out throughout the studio. And one person was standing up opposite the room from their seat. And their objective was to go to that seat and sit in it. And the whole rest of the group, the ensemble, their objective was to keep them from doing that. And so they could get up and fill that space and sit in the seat. But once you have both cheeks off your seat, then you can't return back to it. You can't sit back down. So if you get up, you have to do that. And the idea wasn't to run, but just to like walk with intent and be specific. And it was difficult for the ensemble because, once somebody gets up, they open up their seat. So you have to like figure out how to fill in that space. And we started to get it. And then at that point, it was like, right when we were like clicking in, it's like, okay, let's move on, which always seems to happen. But it was great. That was a really fun warm up, and it was good to get on our feet because for the rest of it, we sat down and I was exhausted. You'll see if you watch yesterday's video. um, it was great, but I was literally falling asleep. I tried like sitting on the ground and going over the script and losing it. Tried sitting up, losing it. Standing up, losing it. Anyway, we'll get to that. Next, we just did some introductions, and we talked about each other, and we talked about why LAMDA. We talked about our experience with Shakespeare, and do we want to be an actor and why, which is cool. And I love this. Oh, if I didn't mention, but our project groups are different than our technique groups. So at the beginning, at the end of like the first week, when we were all 46 together, we divided into 3 subgroups, like A, B, and C. And so I've been with B group since the beginning, the whole first month, right? We're on week 6 of classes after the first week of introduction. And so but now that we're in our project groups, which was the same last half term, the second half of first term, we got new project groups, and there's 5 of us from B group, and there's a bunch from A and C. And so I'm finally getting to know the other peoples in the other classes, which is really fun. And so it was just great to hear people's stories and what brought them where they are and why they're doing it. And I love the passion and the dedication of people. It's like, I want to be an actor. And some people are just like, because there's nothing else, right? What else would I do? Which is fun, because Kirsty had a little anecdote. She's like, I don't want to sound like an a-hole, because she doesn't want to just like name drop, but she's like, but I did The Tempest with Ian McKellen, and there was one night where his back was hurt, and so he wasn't able to perform the show, and he just did a talk back to the actors, to the audience, and one of the audience members asked, what is your advice to a young actor trying to figure it out? And he said, if you can do anything else, do anything else, right? The life of an actor is difficult, and it's requiring, and it's so much. And so if you can do anything else, do anything else. And that was kind of that idea, but it's cool. Also cool that Kirsty's worked with Ian McKellen. Yeah, and it was really good. We took our lunch break in the middle, I believe. No, we didn't take lunch yet. I wrote that down. We took lunch after she introduced herself. We just took a break in the middle, like a 15-minute break, which was crazy. There's a little garden at Collett House, just like downstairs. There's a little patio with some foliage. Garden in London is a loose term. It's basically any outdoor space. But we went to the garden, and we started talking about 9/11, because we were talking about how like old people were and where they were at different places and all that. And it was crazy. There was one student who was living in Jersey and a little older, and so she remembers it vividly, and she could see the smoke from the attack, which is crazy. I know you could see it from space as well, which is just terrible. But that was something we randomly started talking about in our experiences with that, because most of the class, I would say, are younger than that. But there are some. Hey, shout out Sandridge. But there are some, and so on and so forth. But continuing, Yeah, just some thoughts we broke out into, just tangents, and as we were talking about thing, Richard is funny, right? There are Shakespeare really explores all of the edges, right? And he crosses these genres. It's like talking about Romeo and Juliet. The first half is a comedy, and the second half is a tragedy. So like to say it's just about romance and stuff is cutting it short, and there's so much more that's involved in it. Um, yeah, embrace the contradictions and the fluidity. There's so much involved in it. Um, yeah, Kirsty also talked about how training just makes us better people. It improves our empathy and our self discovery and our self understanding. And so this training is really beneficial to us. Um, Shakespeare is so inventive that we can really add and adapt. And she talked about like we might add some poetry or some music throughout this. At the end, she asked us like what instruments we play and what capabilities we have there, as she's really trying to see like what she wants to do with this piece. Um, so let's be up for messing around and adapting this work. And she thinks that's very much in the spirit of Shakespeare. That's what he did, and I think his inventiveness is really what has made him so lasting. Then just a couple quotes that she mentioned. One is, when we are our most authentic selves, we are most useful. That's cool that all of us have special gifts and experiences and thoughts and ideas, and when we tap in and express those authentic thoughts, experiences, feelings, or whatever, that's when we can be most useful to society and to people. It's that diversity, it's that those differences that really make us who we are and improve society, right? A monoculture is kind of a dead culture in a way. It's the diversity and the differences that really improves the whole. Like a well-balanced meal, you need variety. Then the future has an ancient heart. Yeah, she said she just found that somewhere and she loved that. And I love that too. That's a good quote. The future has an ancient heart. You know? Yeah. It's just that idea that there's some ancient truths and some ancient wisdom that we need to tap into. I like that a lot. Um, and then the more we work as an ensemble, the safer we are, and that safety leads to growth. Because if you don't feel like you're going to be judged by your peers, if you don't feel like you're going to fail and fall and no one will be there to catch you, you won't take risks and you won't improve and you won't grow, right? That's why we talked a little bit earlier about that brave space. And then, yeah, so as we improve and grow as an ensemble and trust one another, that leads to growth. And then Kirsty introduced herself. She's from Norfolk. She says out on the bump of England, and she comes from farmers, the working class. Her her moment where she said her Cinderella moment, because there's a student who's black, who the first time she saw the 90s Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella, with the black Cinderella, I forget her name, Brandy something. A shame that I don't remember that, but that was like her moment, like, oh, that's me on the stage, that could be me. And she really was inspired to inspire others and help other people have that moment. And so Kirsty's Cinderella moment was watching Bedknobs and Broomsticks, and she was just like, what is that? I want to do that. I believe that's with Angela Lansbury. But she comes from these farmers, and she didn't understand. And there's this class system in England where there's expectations and feelings that people can do or not do certain things. And so she comes from working class. She was the first person in her family to go to uni. It was not drama school. We'll get to that. But she did her degree in English lit. She didn't feel like she was able to do acting because it was too posh, or it wasn't. Why could she be able to do that kind of a thing? After she got her, it was like post-colonial English literature, something like that. Afterwards, she went to LAMDA, um, and she realized, oh, the acting is doing. It's very accessible. It's something that we all inherently are and can do, and it's practical and accessible. She actually left LAMDA early, like she said, halfway through her second semester, which would be like halfway through the program, because she got a job and she just started working. And then she's been really blessed to be able to work constantly for most of her life. She said she's been doing like 3 to 4 plays a year, kind of consistently. And the industry is really hard right now because with like the pandemic and with the changing of social ideas and everything is just difficult. And so she says we're kind of on this cusp of big change, but we're not there yet. I wrote a little side note because Kirsty talks just like me, where she'll go off on a tangent for like 20 minutes. That's extreme, but she'll just follow her thoughts. And if I ever write an autobiography, I think Living on the Tangent will be a great one. TM. Dibs. Copyright. That's mine. Living on the Tangent. Don't take that from me. Unless I never do anything with it, then ask, and I'll probably let you have it anyway. Living on the Tangent. A Zion Austin story. The story of Zion Austin. Maybe that'd be better. Anyway, speaking of my tangents. Yeah, she's done a ton of Shakespeare, like I read in her little bio before. RSC, the Globe, Royal Court. She's done kind of all the national, all the prestigious theaters, and a bunch of Shakespeare with it too. Her second job, like, didn't finish drama school. Second job was at the National, and it was in this teaching program, and so they would teach Shakespeare to, I think, youth, and so that was where she started falling in love with teaching as well, which, like, her two passions are performance and teaching, which might be mine as well. Uncertain at this moment. It's sure what I've done a lot. Then her favorite things are like Elizabethan and Jacobean theater, that's like Shakespeare, and American theater, because she just feels like there's a directness to it. And she thinks there must have been something similar with the Elizabethan and Jacobean England and America. Like, they were louder and more direct. And she says, I talked about this yesterday a little bit, but that there's a lot of space in the US, and so maybe that has something to do with something. I don't know. But it's a cool idea to see that maybe there's some, as an American, maybe I have more in common with Elizabethan and Jacobean England as I may have thought. Yeah, she's just really fascinated by Shakespeare. She played Juliet at the Globe. And she thinks that Romeo and Juliet is a feminist howl. I love that. Because Juliet is the rich, interesting character. And it's so many people is like, oh, it's a romance. It's like, it's not. And I've come to understand that too, which is so great because it really improves my feeling about the show itself. Because I used to think it was kind of dumb because other people have said it's dumb. And if you look at it as a romance, it is dumb, because why is this the greatest love story if it's just a bunch of stupid kids? But it's not. It's a great tragedy of stupid what's the word? Grudges and stupid family quarrels that these two innocent kids die for no reason, and it's all about the families and their stupidity, and it's not about, oh, how beautiful and perfect this love is. It's such a pure love that I would die for it if I can't have it. No, that's not it. It's that these families are problematic, and she really focused on the feminist perspective and the rage of everyone trying to control her, and her kind of taking control of her own life by ending it, you know. And she also just really focuses and is fascinated by the trauma of Shakespeare. She thinks everything is kind of through this traumatic experience. She talked a lot about Macbeth, and how Macbeth, the very first thing we hear about Macbeth is that he cut a man, like from nape to nape. What was it? Nape to nape. Yeah, yeah. So cleaved a man in half. And that's the first thing we learn about Macbeth. And his first line is "Never so foul a fare this day" or something. Just talking about how kind of traumatized he was from the war, and then also, like, in the Globe, not the Globe, the Utah Shakespeare version I saw this past summer, it really focused on the death of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth's child, which was really cool to kind of show that trauma too. And she just has this kind of lens about removing this patriarchal and colonial viewpoint of Shakespeare. Right? We don't have to hold these patriarchs like Prospero in The Tempest to this high remark. Prospero's crazy, and he's manipulative, and he does these things, and she thinks that there's this lens on Shakespeare that can be broken, and we can find interesting things in it. That's cool. She said that she wants to be an actor because it makes, she said when she was younger she would have said it because it makes her feel alive, but now that she's older she feels like it because it makes other people feel alive, and it's more focused on the other side of that audience performer relationship, which is cool. I love that. I love how reciprocal and giving performances, especially live theater, because live theater is a relationship between an audience and a performer, and the audience gives, they give energy and applause and reciprocation. They say, like, oh, this is good, we like this, or it's not doing it for us. And so the actor gives catharsis and gives entertainment and gives life and purpose and understanding and meaning to these complex ideas in this human experience. And, oh, I love it. It's so good. She talked about just like speaking truth, and that's what people will connect to. That's the point. That's what acting is. Truth. Love it. Oh, she also thinks that just societally we're in trouble because people are afraid of feeling, because if we don't learn, if we can't manage our emotions, then we act illogically and we act poorly, right? If you are afraid of feeling, you act on your instinct, and it's all bad. But if you have healthy emotional responses, then it works much better, because you don't jump into these suppositions. You don't jump into these problems and these traumatic responses to things. You're not just afraid of somebody who's been othered and marginalized, and you're not afraid that they're going to take something from you or do something to you. You can just be like, okay, let me think and feel, because if you feel, then you'll be empathetic, and you'll be like, what, why? I'm not trying to get overly preachy or anything, but acting is the art of empathy. And I'm on that idea right now. I really like that. So, another fun thought is joy is the matriarch of all feeling. And I like that idea. Meaning that you have to feel all the other feelings to reach joy, and that it's through all feelings, even sorrow, sweetens the joy. I don't know. It was a fun thing to ponder. And then she also feels like teaching feeds into her acting because as she's teaching, she sees things and she's like, oh, I can apply that to my own craft. And we are also, I talked a little bit that we're in the process of the systemic change. And so we're like at this turning point. And Kirsty also says we can ask her anything about the industry. She knows what she's doing. She's done a lot of it. And she's like, I didn't know anything. Like she went through half of drama school and then nobody ever told her anything. Okay. And then we talked about, after her little introduction, we talked a little more that we just want to try everything, say yes, and find yourself in the process of training. Yeah, so training is all about that exploration. Try it, see what you find and what works and what you like. Another good quote: contempt prior to investigation is not helpful for an actor. I'm going to repeat that one. Contempt prior to investigation is not helpful for an actor. So if you have contempt and are not willing or wanting to try something before you've explored it and investigated it, that's not helping you. That's not serving yourself, which I thought was cool too. And she was talking also about learning to be seen on stage, right? Not like in an emotional way. It's like, oh, I see you, I feel you. But it's how to be so present and so visible, accessible, seen. It's kind of hard to dictate and articulate these difficult, complex ideas. But yeah, it's cool that's something we'll work on. And then Shakespeare is all about the written word and the rhetoric, right? And rhetoric is language by the means of persuasion. So language is the tool. She said how some people think that Shakespeare is not active, and so you can't train Shakespeare in the same way that you would train something else. And she says, I disagree. Shakespeare is completely active. It's nothing but action. It's action through words. Also, trust the iambic pentameter, because once you take it, it's like riding. Once you get it, it's like riding a wave, and there's purpose. And she was doing a show. I can't remember what show it was. Maybe Winter's Tale, where she found, in trusting the iambic pentameter, she found that people understood it, and at the end they'd be like, "Hey, I understood like everything you said," which is a big deal for Shakespeare. Then we had lunch, and I did my university challenge, which is the little game show that I'm like auditioning for, kind of. I don't know. It's broadcast. It's on TV. But you get like 5 people from a bunch of different universities, and you compete in a trivia show, kind of like Jeopardy. But there were 20 questions. I knew like 5 of them, and I guessed on the other 15. I think there were definitely 3 which I had no idea. There was one about chemistry. It's like, what is this? What is the acidic base? What is the base of all vinegar? Acidic base? I don't know, carbo something. And then it even gave me like the, I should look it up, but the chemical equation, like CH3OOH, I believe it was. My memory's improving. Anyway, so we'll see if they want me. But then we got back and we started working more on the text. Richard III. We read a synopsis. Let's see. When did that happen? Oh, yeah, that's a little bit. So we talked about it beforehand. And we talked about the importance of just like owning our dreams and articulating them is important, because that's good. And right, Nina in The Seagull talks about wanting to be an actor. And she says how it's not about the fame or the glory or the money, but it's about enduring. And that's a cool idea. However difficult this time might be in the industry, it's really also fertile. And we want to find, and we should find, other people who feel the same way and kind of believe the things we believe, because like 10 years ago people wouldn't advocate for you in the same way, but now people are. And there's been really great movements that have helped people to feel comfortable in their voice and to work on that, which is great. And also just kind of ask yourself, like, what sacrifices am I willing to make to be in the spaces and the conversations that I want to be in? What am I willing to do? Yeah, it's a good question to ponder. Yeah, you'll get allies and be an ally as well when people bring up things like she mentioned how she was doing The Winter's Tale, and the two sisters a lot of the time are kind of just lumped together, and the director originally approached her saying, like, yeah, I want to treat this differently and have these actresses these characters be distinct. And so the director asked her once, it's like, hey, could you stand by the other sister? And she's like, no, I can't do that. It's like, you said you wanted it to be distinct, and if we're always together, then we'll just be lumped together. And she also says that's super important to know the text, because Shakespeare will back you up. And so if you know the text, it's like, actually, here in the script, it says these things. So, like, I'm not just making this up. It's supported. Shakespeare's supporting it. Excuse me. So then we talked a little bit about, like, why Richard III? What's the point of it? And it's an interesting tale about humanizing a villain, someone who at the end of the play is willing to kill children to gain and maintain power. And so someone who goes through this story but othered himself and was othered by people because of his deformities, because of his life. Like at the very beginning, he just talks about this self-hatred. He says, But I that am not shaped for sportive tricks, nor made to court an amorous looking glass, I that am rudely stamped, and want love's majesty to strut before a wanton ambling nymph, I that am curtailed of this fair portion, cheated of feature by dissembling nature, deformed, unfinished, sent before my time into this breathing world, scarce half made up, and that's so lamely and unfashionable that dogs bark at me as I halt them. Why I, in this weak piping time of peace, have no delight to pass away the time, unless to see my shadow in the sun and descant on mine own deformity. Right? And therefore, since I cannot prove a lover to entertain these fair, well-spoken days, I am determined to prove a villain. It's rich language and text. I like Shakespeare. It's good. And so he sees himself as this malformed, hated creature that so many people have hated, and the lowly dogs bark at. He's hated by the hated. So he's like, if no one will ever love me, then I'll be exactly what they want me to be. I'll be the villain. I'll be the villain they see that I am. Kirsty was saying how she thinks Shakespeare really saw the world in these different systems and challenged them. Like, who are the others, and who are the rich, and who are the fashionable, and who are the clowns, and all these different ideas. And how does that, like, treat us? Also, apparently William Shakespeare means, like, Will Shakespeare is Will shakes the spirit, which is fascinating. Like, the will to act, the will shakes the spirit. So a lot of these characters are, well, I don't think that's why, but it's just an interesting coincidence. Yeah, that it's all about these characters' desires and what they will. So how are these characters using their will? A book that I'm supposed to read and know is The Myth of Normal by someone. I forgot the name, but she emphasized it a couple times. Then we acted out the play synopsis. She read it, and then we like just did silly acting. And each scene we played different characters. Like some was Richard at one point, and Clarence at another point, and Buckingham, and so on and so forth. It's like doodle. And then we started reading through the script, but through tangents and my utter exhaustion, I was falling asleep, and it was just rough. We only got through 2 scenes in like an hour, and they're not even long scenes. Like, one page, which is like a literal monologue, the whole page. 2 pages. Clarence, 3.5. That's one scene. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. So 9 pages in an hour. It's a little rough. But yeah. So we're talking a lot about honesty and how we have to play all these characters honestly, because at the beginning, Richard is just saying, oh, Clarence, like he's taking his brother. So his brother Edward II, I believe at this time, Edward II is king. And he is the Duke of Gloucester, and his brother Clarence is the Duke of Clarence. His name is George. But he is being put in prison because the king, Edward, both of their brothers, had this dream that he would be killed or betrayed by someone whose name started with the G. Unfortunately, Richard of Gloucester, is that G. And so he gets put in prison, and then Richard's just saying, I'm going to kill you. It's like, I love you, and you're going to go to heaven, and that's great. But he doesn't say it to his face. The whole time he's like, no, I'll protect you. I'll take care of you. And it's fascinating because the character can't just be like tongue-in-cheek and be like, you know what? You're great. I love you so much, right? If you play this subtext too much, or if you play into like, if you're not convincing as Richard, then Clarence is an idiot, right? So you have to play it really honestly and convincingly. Then we got our castings, and I will be playing Buckingham throughout the whole show. Well, the scenes that we're doing. I know the scenes I'm in are Act 1, Scene 3, Act 3, Scene 7, and then wherever I come as a ghost at the end, because I get to die. To be a ghost. The ghost of Buckingham in 5, whichever. Enter, ghost of Buckingham. The first was I that helped thee to the crown. The last was I that felt the tyranny. Oh, in the battle think of Buckingham, and die in terror of thy guiltiness. That makes more sense. And die in terror of thy guiltiness. Dream on of bloody deeds and death. Fainting despair, despairing, yield thy breath. Oh, I get the last line before he wakes up too. Sick! I'm excited. It's gonna be good. That was day 2, week 7. It was good. Yeah, so I'm back on track, I think, of things. I want to leave in 7 minutes, but that's not going to happen because I got to make some lunch because I can't spend money because I have a child at home and I'm poor and not working. Yeah. So like and subscribe so that I can make money off of this, which I never anticipate on doing. But enjoy these. Love you lots.